M, little c, big C, O-R-M-I-C-K. And then she'll be introducing the Attorney General. So we'll start here shortly. I'll go grab them right now. Just kidding, one more announcement. U.S. Attorney's Office personnel, after the speech, if you could meet me outside of this room, maybe off to the side here, immediately after the speech is over. Thank you.
So today, welcome chiefs, sheriffs, SACs, ASACs, federal and state law enforcement partners, and all of our EDDA colleagues. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Tracy McCormick. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome our speaker today, Attorney General Sessions, who's here to discuss terrorism and immigration. I wanted to begin by apologizing that our U.S. Attorney, Dana Bente, could not be here today. He had an unavoidable conflict, and he passes along, though, his thanks to you for all that you do, and also for coming here this afternoon. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has worked in and around law enforcement for 40 years. I am honored to be able to introduce him, given this commitment to the public safety and to the community. But I also have a personal reason as well, and that's because of Attorney General Sessions, for one glimpse of a moment, my teenage son was almost impressed by me. I was working very long hours one weekend, and my 17-year-old son said to me, "Why are you working so hard? You work hard all the time, but this is crazy." And I explained, well, when you're briefing the Attorney General of the United States, you have to be prepared. And he looked at me wide-eyed, and he said, "Are you really going to meet Jeff Sessions?" And I said, wow, he's actually proud of me. I can't believe it. But no, like all self-interested teenagers, it was all about me serving him. Can you get me his autograph? So all kidding aside, the Attorney General knows what it means to work long hours and make personal sacrifices in serving this country, not only in the U.S. Army, but also in securing public safety. He served as Attorney General of Alabama. He was a federal prosecutor for 14 years, 12 of which he served as a United States Attorney after being appointed by President Ronald Reagan. And for 20 years, he served as a United States Senator, including on the Judiciary Committee. Attorney General Sessions is the 84th Attorney General of the United States. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce him today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. It is very good to be with all of you. And it's good to see our state and local law enforcement officials here too, because we are partners. There is no doubt about it. The President gave us an executive order right off the bat, and he can be pretty direct. And this thing said to the Department of Justice, your goal is to reduce crime in America. So I'm giving a lot of thought to that. We embrace that goal, but we know if you look at how crime is fought in America, 85% of law officers are state and local. And so we have to do this together. That's our goal. That's our vision. That's what we intend to do, to be partners. And I think properly applying proven techniques of law enforcement, we can make America safer. We can actually reduce crime in America, and that's what we're determined to do. Tracy, thank you, and for your team that are here today. I appreciate their work. There is no doubt that this district is recognized as one of the finest, most productive United States Attorney's offices in America. Right? Right. And I mean that sincerely, and you've done great work and do a lot of national security cases. In addition, a lot more than most any other district in the country does, too. So that's a special contribution to America's national security. My good friend Dana, I wish he could have been with us. I talked to him about coming. It just couldn't work out. But Dana has just been a right hand to me. Somebody I trust, I like, I value, and you got to have people around you like that. So he's down here in Virginia working his heart out to protect America, and he gets this call and says, how would you like to be Attorney General of the United States? Next thing you know, he's acting Attorney General of the United States. And then when I got confirmed, he was acting Deputy Attorney General of the United States. And then after Rod Rosenstein was confirmed, he became the director of the National Security Division of the United States of America. And now he'll be assuming a critically important role as chief counsel at the FBI. So Dana has just been a great friend, a great contributor, and it's part of the tradition that you've had in this district. So I really do want to thank our state and local law officers for what you do, the partnerships that we have, and we would like to believe that we can make those even better. And we'll be working at it. Today, we face a number of serious threats from the vicious MS-13 group that you have dealt with here over a period of years and decimated a lot of the leaders here, to the deadliest drug epidemic in American history. We've never seen anything like it before, to radical Islamic terrorism, which this district has confronted. Our law enforcement community is resolute. It's determined to confront each one of these threats to give every American safety and peace of mind. But to do that, we have to have right policies in place. It's neither fair nor reasonable to ask more of law enforcement while at the same time undermining their efforts through harmful or ineffective policies. So I want to talk a little bit about our immigration policies today. Those policies, for example, are not promoting the national interest, but instead select the vast majority of legal immigrants without respect to merit. As a result, law enforcement officers have had more work to do. You've had to go into more dangerous situations, confront more criminals, criminals who often shouldn't have been allowed in the country in the first place. There are some 11 million illegal aliens in the country, a population the size of Georgia or Portugal, if we can't control or even know who enters the country, it's that much harder to keep people safe. And this is no hypothetical matter. The effects can be seen across the country. Last week, the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security released a report that reveals that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers have removed more than 1,700 aliens with national security concerns since 9/11. It also states that nearly 3 out of every 4 people convicted of international terrorism in the United States, related offenses in the federal courts, were born outside the country. That includes Mahmoud Amin Mohammed El Hassan, a Sudanese national who lived in Woodbridge, Virginia. He was admitted to the United States in 2012 through chain migration as a family member of a lawful permanent resident. Not a citizen, but chain migration applies even to green card holders, lawful permanent residents. Now he's been sentenced to 11 years in prison for attempting to help someone fly from Richmond to Syria to fight for ISIS. He planned on following him there later himself. The report goes on to talk about Ali Shukari Amin, a Sudanese national who lived in Manassas. He was admitted to the United States through chain migration as the child of a diversity visa lottery recipient and was naturalized. He, too, is serving an 11-year sentence for trying to help ISIS. According to the court documents, Amin admitted to using Twitter to provide advice and encouragement to ISIS and its supporters. He also admitted that he assisted an Iranian-born friend from Prince William County to travel to Syria to fight with ISIS. And as we all know, this fall we saw 2 terrorist attacks in New York in less than 2 months. They were carried out by people who came here as the result of the diversity lottery and chain migration. As a result, 8 people were killed. We have no duty, indeed we have a duty to not allow terrorists to enter into our country. And yet we know that hundreds of them have endangered the lives of citizens we are sworn to protect. Any crime committed by improperly vetted immigrants, especially illegal aliens, is by definition a preventable crime. It's a problem we don't need to create. Even one victim of a crime committed in this fashion is one too many. Criminals have no right to demand entry into the United States. They don't have a constitutional right to demand here. We have a duty to select people that we believe will flourish and be law-abiding in our country. We should strive to never admit criminals, not one. And yet thousands of Americans across our country have suffered because of decades of lack which revealed that there were nearly 40,000 known or suspected aliens in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons. That's roughly 1 in 5 prisoners in the Bureau of Prisons. That means that the immigrant share of the federal prison population is nearly 2/3 greater than their share in the general population. Out of those in custody of the United States Marshal Service, a separate cohort waiting trial prisoners, nearly 20,000 of those were foreign-born. That's more than 1/3 of the total Marshal population and nearly triple the share of the general population. So I'm sure you've heard that immigrants are less likely to commit crime than average, but one study that just came out looked at the prison population in Arizona and found that illegal aliens are more than twice as likely to be convicted of crimes as normal or regular Arizonians. They're more likely to be convicted of sexual assault, robbery, driving under the influence, and they're more than twice as likely to be convicted of murder. Tens of thousands of crimes have been committed in this country that would never have happened if our immigration laws had been properly enforced and respected as they ought to be. Just 3 days ago, an illegal alien living in Southern California was charged with rape of an intoxicated victim and a first-degree burglary. He's a driver for a ride-sharing company, allegedly took advantage of intoxicated female passengers who got into his car. Under the laws of this country, he shouldn't have been here. In the country. So this is an issue of crime committed by aliens, and it doesn't just affect the victims of those crimes. It affects all of us by placing an unnecessary and unfair burden on federal agents. I've seen and had my 3 times a week briefing by the FBI, and I know how difficult it is for them to maintain surveillance and to monitor individuals who've come here that might be dangerous. It's a myth that we have unlimited agents who can spend unlimited time monitoring, surveilling people who might turn out to be dangerous. It's just a matter of mathematics. And so that's what happens when cities and counties and states deliberately refuse to cooperate with federal law enforcement. These so-called sanctuary policies force police to release criminals back into the community, no matter what their crimes they may have committed in those jurisdictions. And we're not going and cannot continue giving federal grants to cities that actively undermine the safety of federal law officers and intentionally frustrate the efforts, our efforts to reduce crime in America. That's why under President Trump's leadership, we've started to channel federal law enforcement funding to cities that do cooperate with immigration enforcement. If these cities want to receive law enforcement grants, they can. We want them to. They just have to stop impeding federal law enforcement. On Wednesday, the department requested documents from 23 jurisdictions across the country to ensure that they are complying with the law. Those that fail to respond completely or promptly will be subject to a subpoena. Some have fussed, but these are documents they can easily produce to us. I'm hopeful that it will not come to subpoenas and that these cities and counties will show us that they are indeed following the law. But for a permanent fix, I have to say, of our immigration laws in this respect, we're going to need Congress to act. The American people have known for more than 30 years, the American people are right about this, that our immigration system is broken. It's intentionally designed to be blind to merit. It doesn't favor education or skills. It just favors anybody who has a relative in America and not necessarily a close relative. That defies common sense. Employers don't roll dice when they're deciding who to hire. Our incredible military doesn't draw straws when deciding whom to accept. But for some reason, when we're admitting new Americans, the future of our country, our government uses a randomized lottery system and chain migration. President Trump ran for office and won by arguing that he will fix this program, this broken system. And finally, we have someone, I think, that's listening to the concerns of the American people. He has the kind of bold agenda that the American people have been waiting for and deserve. The president is determined to finally build a wall at the southern border. This will make it harder, much harder, and far more expensive for illegal aliens to break our laws, smuggle drugs, or even human beings into the country. For many, it will become too costly or too much trouble, and they will stay home. And now remember, our goal is not to see how many people we can arrest. That's not what our purpose is, but to end the illegality and to restore in this country a legal system of immigration. And we want people to apply and wait their turn. And if they're not selected, they are not entitled to come into the country illegally. It's just that simple. Once that's established, people will stop, I believe, in large numbers from making this dangerous attempt. Perhaps more importantly, the wall will send a message to the world that in the United States of America, we enforce the laws of this country. And to better achieve that, the President has proposed hiring more than 10,000 new ICE officers, 1,000 new ICE attorneys, 300 new immigration prosecutors, and nearly 400 new immigration judges. With these new resources, our immigration system will move faster, more efficiently, and be more effective. And a central idea of the President's reform proposal is switching to a merit system based of immigration. That means welcoming the best and brightest, but banning and deporting gang members, identity fraudsters, drunk drivers, and child abusers, making them inadmissible in our country. This merit-based system would better serve our national interests because it would benefit the American people, which is what this agenda is all about. And this proposal is not unique, of course. A merit-based system is the law in places like Australia and Canada. In those countries, future Canadians and future Australians are chosen based on their likelihood of assimilating, thriving in the country, and contributing to the society as a whole. A decade ago, I had the opportunity to meet with one of the architects of the Canadian system and ask about how well it was working. It hadn't been in place that long, and he said it was working very well. It was very popular. There was no chance the people of Canada would want to go back to their old system. So that would be what we should do, in my opinion. And it would be great for the economy. But importantly, it would be the best way to ensure that our immigration system does not continue to harm national security. Immigration is indeed a national security issue. We need this agenda. It's time to put an end to the lawlessness. And Virginians know that better than just about anybody. It's time to put in place smarter immigration laws and start enforcing them. The American people have waited long enough. We want to create a system that serves the national interest. That's exactly what a great nation should do. There's nothing wrong, nothing immoral to develop a policy of immigration that we believe strengthens America and makes us a greater country. President Trump's proposed merit-based system would restore fairness and respect for the law, and it would also help us be safer. No doubt about that. And I want to say one last thing. I love the Department of Justice and the great people that work here. The vast majority are dedicated, hardworking, patriotic Americans. It is an honor beyond words for me to lead them and serve them. From day one, my mission as Attorney General has been to ensure our great department has its rightful place as the crown jewel, we think, of the U.S. government. However, there have been some sharp criticisms about the department. There are two ways to address and respond to these criticisms. One is to be defensive. The other is to hear concerns and act on them professionally, fairly, and completely in order to maintain the public trust in their government. My purpose every day is to get the department back to its fundamental mission of enforcing the law and protecting the safety of Americans with integrity and fairness. That's the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning, and that's what my team works at every day. This mission means returning to the constitutional role of enforcing the law as it is written, not as some particular group thinks it should have been written. Professor Van Alstyne, law professor and a great writer at William & Mary, told the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals over 20 years ago. I remember it. I've never forgotten it. he said, well, in my mind, I think if you respect the Constitution, you will enforce it as it's written, the good and bad parts. Well, he didn't mean any part was particularly good or bad, but what the judge might think it's not a bad part really is what he was telling the judges. And I think that's true. And if you undermine the commitment to constitutional provisions that are clearly in the document, what other constitutional provision will be subject to revision by some judge in the future? So we need to do our duty and follow the law. Some people like that concept, some don't. But the Constitution says that Congress writes the laws and we enforce them, not the other way around. It means absolutely eliminating political bias or favoritism in either direction from our investigations and our prosecutions. That sort of thinking is the antithesis of what the department stands for. We will not tolerate it. It means identifying the mistakes of the past, correcting them. And when we find problems, we are addressing them head on, not sweeping them under the rug. Much of what we're doing is behind the scenes. It's not public, but some of it is squarely in the public view. Well, that's okay. This is our system. It's part of the process. We're going to work our way through it. We don't see criticism from Congress as necessarily a bad thing. We welcome Congress as a partner in our effort to get better. When they learn of a problem and start asking questions, well, that's just a good thing. Sunlight is the best infectant, truly. Truth breeds confidence. A culture of defensiveness is not acceptable. The Department of Justice does not always know what's best. We're not always perfect. No one is. And it can never be that our department would conceal errors if they are to occur. We expect, no, we demand the highest level of integrity, ethics, and professionalism from every person in the Department of Justice. Everyone is expected to advance the mission of the department honorably in service to the American people. If anyone falls short of these standards, we will not hesitate to take appropriate action, and we will do so in accordance with the rules and procedures of the Department of Justice. And while we are open to fair criticism, we, of course, will defend investigators and prosecutors from unfair criticism. Our goal is justice. All our work is subject to review within certain restraints. We will not reject justified review. Our work requires constant improvement and adjustments, but it must always be founded on integrity and the law. Nothing is more important. That is our goal. Thank you all for letting me be with you. Thank you for those of you who work with this United States Attorney's Office. Thank this United States Attorney's Office for your fabulous service to America. You have one of the best offices in America, no doubt. Congratulations on that. And thank you all, and let's work together. God bless.
General Sessions, the President ordered the firing of Robert Mueller.